Welcome to the Success Resequencing Project. I'm Debbie Ponticus.
And I'm Jenn Newman.
Join us as we challenge the traditional definitions of success so you can build a fulfilling path of your own.
Get ready for inspired, candid conversations while gaining tools, inspiration, and confidence to create your own authentic success story.
Well, hello. Here we are again.
Hi. So
yeah,
we have been sensing not only from each other, from our team, from friends, other colleagues, there's a lot of overwhelm in the world right now.
Yes.
And we're going to break it down today for the sake of business. We're going to really get into the nitty gritty of that.
Yeah.
But I think that it's really important to keep in mind that overwhelm there's just too many tabs open in the brain. We've just got to get that strategy behind it so that you can find some sense of completion, even when the to-do list is going to still outlive it by at least 17 days, right? You want to feel like you're making positive strides in some sense of digestible chunks, because overwhelm is so real.
Yes.
We know that as young moms, or I should say moms with young kids can sometimes feel like there is no end in sight. They can't see the future, right? It's like, it just feels like this is what it's going to be like. I had a young mom come to community coffee, one of my neighbors, a couple of weeks ago, and the baby just started sleeping through the night. Mm-hmm. And it was that sense of, oh my God. Yeah. I slept.
Caught my breath.
She slept.
Yeah.
And then I woke up and she was still sleeping. And then, of course, I thought something was wrong.
Yeah, then
right?
It's like that's the panic
terror.
sets in.
Yeah.
It was that moment of bliss. And then you're like, oh my God, my child might be dead.
Totally. And she was talking about what that difference made of feeling like she could reset for a second of, okay, we're going to make it. Right. Everything looked better in that moment because she did have rest and she was able to just kind of take it all in and say, what is it, that expression? The days are long, but the years are short.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And she was just able to say, okay, this is it's a season.
Yeah.
Here we are.
So no, I think this is a very important topic because I think many of us, at least everyone I have talked to, has said since January 1 of this year, it has been intense. Yeah. Like no matter what business you're in or what you're doing, I don't know what's happened, but it is like everyone is drinking through the fire hose.
Yes.
And it's that when can you pause and catch your breath?
Yeah.
And then it's about the whole idea of like, okay, this is something that most entrepreneurs are going to have thrown at them multiple times as they grow a business.
100%.
Because it's that when you are growing something.
Yes.
And you do all of this work and you're planting the seeds and you feel like nothing's happening and you're just kind of edging along, and then all of a sudden the seeds start to sprout.
Yep.
And you start getting those calls in with business, no matter where you are. And now you've had a business set up for your first phase, right? So you have the tools in place, you have the systems in place for that, the harvest, not the harvesting, the planting. Right?
Yeah.
So when you're a individual business owner, you don't have necessarily funding, resources, staffing to really prepare yourself for phase 2, which is harvesting, right? So we go through, I think, multiple times as you grow your business and you see things happen that you're really grateful for these things coming in, but now you're like, I can't even catch my breath.
Correct.
I am not getting any sleep.
Yep.
I can't see my kids anymore. Like my spouse, they wonder where I've been.
Like
you start to just ask yourself, is this what I asked for? Like this is hard. This is really stretching me thin. And so it's just about that phase. And we can talk about that a little bit about
it.
This whole, the growing pains of growing a business.
Also, don't you find it fascinating? There's the expression of, I can't complain at having a lot on my plate when all I asked was to eat. And I think there's a lot of guilt that sets in with that too, because you are so grateful that it's happening. But then there is that side of guilt And honestly, it can feel really defeating because you don't feel, now it's like, oh my God, I have it, but now can I handle it? Right. For us personally, building our real estate businesses, we both came to a point in time where you start to see that you have to, you're so good at being a solopreneur, right? You've done all of the things on your own. And now in order to scale, you have to start delegating.
Yes.
And when that delegation piece comes in, what no one tells you is that when you first start delegating, it's double the work.
Yeah.
And so you have to give yourself grace with that, because you are now having to manage what's on your plate, prepare someone else to do it. And that means training, coaching, doing whatever that looks like in whatever framework that is. And now you're managing work and people. And that piece feels clunky at first.
It's clunky and it's scary.
And it's scary too.
It's scary because you are now trusting someone else with your brand.
Yes.
And you have worked your tail off to build a reputation and build a brand and deliver product in a specific way or service in a specific way.
It's got your name on it.
And it has your name on it. Yeah. And now you have to train someone else who may not have the same motivation as you to deliver that quality of service or to dedicate as much time, because that's not their name on the building or that's not their business.
Right.
So it's a lot of stress of learning how to let go. But how do you, as far of that anxiety?
Sure.
Right. But to do that, I think you have to figure out your operating procedures. You have to, there's a book out there that I highly recommend. It's called The E-Myth. And it only takes about an hour to read it. Like it's a really good book. Oh, it's a really great book.
We've talked about this. I have it actually. Yeah. I haven't read it yet.
So, but what they talk about is you have to franchise your business in a sense, right? You have to create, what does it look like? What are the steps that you personally do to ensure that whatever product or service you're delivering has your stamp of approval and your quality and your brand?
Yeah.
So you document that, right? And then you've got an operating procedure, an operating manual for that task, that idea, that product, that then you can sit down and train someone. And to your point, it's not like it's easy, because now you have to train someone on your mindset, your methods and all of that. So you're doing double work. But and then in that, you're going to realize, oh, something that to me, I don't even have to think about, I need to document, because that's a step that is a no-brainer for me to think about, but I didn't realize it's intrinsic to me. Yeah. But I didn't realize that that's something I actually need to write down as a step. And then you work together. So that first person you train is probably the hardest person. Did you hear that weird little whistle when I said hardest? That was so weird.
That was awesome.
So let me swallow the saliva. It was bizarre. We've been making a lot of weird noises today.
Today has been a day in the studio.
Been a day in the studio.
We've had flickering lights. We've got sounds.
Yes,
our bodies have been making noises.
Yes, it's been great.
We are here for it.
So that first person that you train is going to be the hardest one, because you're really kind of documenting everything that needs to happen to get that result or that product or that brand that you need.
Yes.
But then it is nerve-wracking when you finally step back and you have to trust someone else now to do it the way you would do it and to put the energy and effort and dedication to something.
Which is why it's so important to know that you are energetically aligned with someone, because it's so easy to have a job description, but for me, it's about that personality match, right? You have to know that someone's got the energy and the chutzpah to go do it, whereas someone can check all the boxes on a resume. I'd rather have somebody that I know has the right energy that will execute. And the truth is, if you hire someone good, they may do it differently, which then shows you that that's actually a more efficient or better way to do something. And you're like, oh, got it. You just have to get through that initial overwhelm of the training piece, because that is when you start to realize all the things that maybe you have needed or wanted to do, but maybe haven't always gotten done. They've kind of been shelved because maybe you're in the thick of it with clients or something else happens. So now you're trying to also build consistency at the same time.
Right.
It's a lot, that initial expansion piece. And I had been told multiple times that was the way it was. And I was like, okay, it's fine. And then you go through it and you're like, okay, it's a lot to carry around in that initial phase. but you just have to trust that you're going to get to that other side. And then once you do, you take a deep breath and go, oh my God, why didn't I hire someone 4 years ago? Right. It's so worth it. But there is that learning curve.
Right.
And you're also learning what kind of, how are you going to lead and train? I don't know about you, but that also is, you learn a lot about yourself during that process too.
You do.
know?
And I think you have to realize that when you're growing something big, there are going to be these waves when you have pushed to get to this point.
Yep.
But now you're there and you couldn't have known what's coming. Right. So you can't plan for it.
Right.
When you're in it, it can be incredibly overwhelming.
Yep.
And you just don't know when is it going to end. Right. And I think one thing that you have to do is try not to get in a spiral of that.
Yeah.
One, be appreciative every day that you are finally getting the business or the calls and all of that you were wanting and that you work so hard for.
Yeah.
Take a moment to say thanks to those around you, even if it's every day, and say, listen, I know right now my season is causing us to have less time together at home. I'm not seeing my kids as much as I want.
Sure.
And I just want to say thank you for allowing me the opportunity to get here with my business. And it's a moment in time.
It's a moment in time. It's a season.
It's a season. But then you, as the business owner, have to take action to understand that if you want out and you want to see the light at the end of the tunnel, you need to start quickly identifying those things that you can delegate.
Yes.
What things are crucial that you have to keep doing?
Yes.
That it's incremental to your brand.
Yes.
And then what are the things that you can delegate?
Correct.
And there are some times that doesn't necessarily have to mean a full-time employee. It can mean you're outsourcing to a vendor for 5 to 10 hours a week just to take something off your plate, just to kind of release the pressure a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is adding that full time. And boy, is that daunting to now think about you're taking on a salary, you're taking on the livelihood of someone else. It's a lot to process and think about.
It is, but it's kind of exciting.
It's very exciting. It means you're growing.
Yeah.
It means what you've worked so hard to accomplish is happening.
Yeah.
So, but you can't expect that you have it all figured out.
I also keep saying yeah a lot, so I'm sorry. I realize I'm like, yeah. That's, wow. Okay, we're going to tone that down.
Yeah.
Not. Okay, continue.
But yeah, I mean, it's a season.
It is.
And you just have to figure out how to take a breath. And that's hard. Right now, I am going through one of those seasons as well, where there's been a lot of opportunity come really fast. And I do feel it. I feel it in my chest. I feel the tightness. I feel like I have to catch myself and just
breathe.
And it's like I go back to when I was in high school or college and you had that exam, right? And you had to cram for that exam and it was stressful, but you knew there was an endpoint, which this is a little bit different because in business, you don't necessarily know there's an endpoint, but maybe you know that I'm about to hire someone, right?
Yeah.
And there will be an end. I always would tell myself in 2 hours, it's over. You've done what you can do to get prepared for this point. Now just go do it.
Remember, that is a really good point. That I can appreciate that, not because I handled test anxiety well at all, because I sucked and I procrastinated until the very last second. But when it came to performing and we would have a script memorization, or it was time to do the opera, right? So we've memorized that score. And I was always so afraid that I was going to make mistakes in those final rehearsals that I was very addicted to carrying my score around. It wasn't that I would open it, but it was like a blanket. It was my whoopee, right? And I'll never forget one of my directors looking at me and saying, it's time to put the score down. You know it. It's in you. Yeah. It's there. You've prepped. It's there. Now you got to trust it. And I do think that is this season when you are growing and stretching, you are ready for it. It feels like, to your point, you're drinking through a fire hose, but you were built to handle this moment.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, it's like new level, new devil, right? You're going to grow and you're going to expand, and then you're going to feel like, okay, it's moving and grooving. We're making progress. And then what's the next level going to be?
Right.
Right. And so there's also, then that's a fun twist in the story, but you have to take those moments and recognize that sometimes self-care, sometimes a deep breath is the amount of self-care you're going to get in that moment. That's okay. It doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. It is going to be that way for a season.
Yeah.
And,
sorry, my meatballs had to make a present. I was like, did you hear that on the nose? Like,
we are going to rename this podcast to Rest and Digest.
To rest and
It's really what we're going to do.
Like, really? I was like,
the new theme song is just
face I made. I was like,
yeah, I really did. I was like, oh
what's
boy,
happening over there? She's self-destructing. Sorry. But yeah, no, I think that your point is amazing. And that's one of those things that you have to just also realize when you're in that moment. Like, the most important thing to do is start separating what's critical from what's not.
I love that you're going there with this.
Yeah.
Because did you find, you and I both love lists.
Yes.
You and I love
Amen
lists
to
until the
list.
cows come home. Yes. Yeah. Have you found success in brain dumping at least once a week, where you just you literally just take, even if it's 15 minutes, you're like, just put it all on one sheet of paper. Just put it all down. It just let it free flow, right? It's like, it doesn't matter what the thoughts are. It doesn't matter if it's personal, if it's business, whatever, just get it all on a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
I have found that has dramatically helped me then prioritize for the week. Because in the minute when you're trying to mentally process everything that needs to be done, I do think that is like adding fuel to the fire for overwhelm, because your brain is trying to process a list that you don't have, and you need something where you can literally lay it out and be able to categorize it. Like, when I'm really in the thick of it, there'll be a client bucket, there'll be a home bucket, there'll be a family bucket, there'll be bills, team, all the different things, and I'll just start categorizing it. And when I do that, that is how I'm able to separate what really is critical and what actually can wait.
Yeah. No, I do that too. I have my list for everything, and I've got like an online list software that has kind of started to help me just dump. You know, but I am very I need my list in front of me.
Me too.
But what I do is at least know I've got it there, and it's on my phone. So like, if I'm in the bathroom getting ready in the morning and I think of something, I can at least just be like, hey, add this to the list or whatever. Then I sit down and I'm like, okay, of all these, and sometimes for me, it's important to know that I'm making progress in all my buckets and categories, right? So that I'm not neglecting my needs at home or all of that. So I'll say, what one thing off my home list is reasonable for me to accomplish this week?
Yes.
And then I put that on my main list for the week, right? So and then I'll look at all the things. I'm like, okay, what's really critical right now? Because as you know, I've been going solo. I had an assistant. I haven't had one for a few months. And when you are used to that being in place and then you go without it, like, there's a lot that you have to process. But the biggest thing for me was saying, what's critical for my business? What's not? What was not necessarily, I wouldn't want to call it busy work, but what's not critical to make me keep moving the dial?
Yes.
So that's all you can do. You're only one person. Right? So you can't expect yourself to do everything.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that also is communication to your clients, to those around you, just to say, look, there's a few things I'm going to have to put on hold because I need to train this new employee, or I need to do this. But by doing this, it's going to give me my time back.
Exactly.
I think as long as you're communicating that with the people that you work with and all of that, then it gives them an understanding. Because I think sometimes when I don't communicate that, and then I see like my family at home and all of that, and then like my kids going, Mom, you're missing your game again, and all of that, then it makes you feel guilty. But if I were to just sit down and say, hey guys, this is a really busy, how a couple months ago I was saying, I wish I had, more phone calls happening. Well, they're happening now. And now I just need to, unfortunately, I'm going to miss this and all that, but I'll get back there. Okay, Mom, that's great. Or, like just having
managing expectations,
but you can't do it all. So you've got to figure out what's critical. Create your lists, get the people trained, and just understand that it's a season. And that is a season. To be where you are means you're growing.
Exactly.
But really the other part that I wanted to say, because I am someone that it can do this as well. You can get used to being busy, right? When you're in these seasons of intense phone calls,
movement,
like movement of everything, and you're just juggling 60 balls.
The meatballs that you just
yes,
ate?
Yeah. Yep, my intestines are juggling those. But what you have to realize is that you need to prepare yourself to go back to normalcy. Because I struggle with this, right? When you finally get the person trained and now you have an extra hour or two, you feel like, I should be doing something. I should be doing something. I should be doing something. So you add something else.
I was just going to say, it's a very slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very slippery slope. And you do have to also, if you're an achiever by nature, you have to reassure yourself that having time back is not a failure.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're missing something else or you're lacking something else or you're not working. And I have yet to master that. So I'm in full transparency. Sorry, my back today,
I know,
my
we're
sciatica.
all over the place. Like
my sciatica today, but it is bad. And so I keep shifting my weight. I'm sorry. But that constancy, I'm not good at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really have to. I found myself walking around Saturday. It was like 5:00. So I've worked all day. Mm-hmm. It was a fun day, but I still worked all day.
Right.
And then there it was evening, and it was like my instinct every single time is not, ooh, let me go watercolor, or ooh, let me go just like hang out in the hot tub. It was, what else can I do for work?
Mm-hmm. One more thing can I check off the list?
One more thing can I check off the list? And so I fought against that. It did, though. Last night, there I was, like the day was done, and it had been a very intense day. And then it was, but you know what? Now I've got time. So feral Jen, full pajamas, dogs, bed. The work bed is a very good place. And I cranked a bunch of things out. And that was more because I was mitigating overwhelm.
Yeah. Yes.
That was, let's just try to get a little bit ahead.
So I can start the day and the week.
Start Monday
without feeling behind.
That's exactly right. I knew Lizzie was going to call me this morning, 8:00. I wanted to be able to say, but it was like, I knew that this is going to be an intense week. It's actually going to be an intense 6 weeks. So I'm like, you know what? Just do it. Just do it. Get ahead of it. Even if it's only a couple of things, because that felt like the win.
Yeah.
And I was very proud of myself this morning when I was like, I did
You felt
my
like
job.
You were ready for the day.
Yes.
And you know what? It goes back to another episode that we had, but sometimes you just have to be uncomfortable. To grow, you have to get uncomfortable.
You do.
If you are comfortable, you're not growing. That doesn't mean that you always have to be uncomfortable. Right. But what I'm saying is, like, when you're ready to take that, let's unpack that a bit.
Let's unpack that a little bit.
When you need to take your business to the next level.
Yes.
It's not going to be a piece of cake.
No, because you have to grow yourself to do it.
Right. Because you've not done it yet.
Correct. You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know. You don't know what resources you aren't going to need. You just know where you're struggling. You know where you're running too thin, and you can start putting a plan together. I'm all about that. Like, when you're feeling like the world is just spinning and you don't know how to take the next step, sit down and just put it on paper.
You have to.
You have to. So many times I have felt like that tightness in the chest, and you're just taking a breath because I feel like I'm overwhelmed with my to-dos. Then I actually sit down and write them out, and I'm like,
then they feel manageable.
That's okay. And I don't need to do that.
Can we just talk about the dopamine that happens when you get to start checking things off the list?
Oh yeah. Sometimes I put things on that I like just finished.
Same.
To like,
fun fact,
just give
did it last night.
Because you need that. You need at least that. Something like, oh, I'm putting that on the list because I just did it.
It also helps remind you that that's how much is living up in that brain. I mean, there are so many tabs, right? I always come back to that, but I'm like, I just need to close the tab and I need to document that I did it, because knowing me, I'm going to be like, did I do that? Oh, wait. And then go check. And no, we don't need to go down that path. So finding and creating those wins is sometimes as simple as checking something off of a to-do list.
Yes.
When you feel like you're drowning, that is important. So create your wins.
Yeah.
If that's going to help you move the needle, just to feel like that you didn't get through the entire day and not get something accomplished. Right. Because some of these projects or training or onboarding, or those are day in and day out. It's not a one and done situation. Right. So you do need to create those wins for yourself. Yeah.
And the faster that you get to that point, you'll see that light at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly.
You'll see the reward of all the hard work.
Yeah.
But it's just it's growing pains. That's celebrate the fact that you've been given this opportunity to grow.
Absolutely. Did you actually, fun fact, did you get growing pains when you were growing up? Did you get them in your legs?
But I don't think so.
You would have known.
Yeah, then no.
Okay. Yeah. I got them horribly.
Oh.
And it was, I think about it because it's still another one of those lovely parallels, right? Yeah. Where I did get them and they would be so bad. It was almost like Charlie horses.
Okay.
And I would be in such pain that I would wake my mom up and my mom would have to rub my legs to get them to calm down. Like it was just, they hurt, they ached so badly. Yeah. And so my point is like, it robbed me of my sleep, right? Mm-hmm. It's that time where you're growing. The good news is you're going to get past it, but it is an interrupter. It really is.
Fun fact. I, growing up, actually thought it was only boys got them because I thought it was growing pains. Yeah. I honest to God, growing up, when I heard people saying, oh, it must be growing pains.
And you thought it was
it was growing pains because that's what boys had. They had pain in their groin when they were growing taller and all that. Listen, I admit that I was a weird child.
No, but
I also thought, this is one of those things, I also thought, because I want to get off that real quick. I also thought that Olivia Newton-John was two people. I thought it was Olivia Newt and John.
That is my favorite thing of the day.
Because I was obsessed with her and John Travolta, and they did a lot of movies together.
Yeah, so you thought that's what they meant.
It's Olivia Newton and John. And with that,
I am going to listen to Hopelessly Devoted to You when I go home today. Mm-hmm. That is awesome. Trust me when I say I had plenty of my own, how shall I say?
Growing pains.
My growing pains, yes. And they're just, some of them are just not appropriate for me to say on camera. But yes, I had many misunderstandings of things. Or your parents will say something over and over and over and over again, and you hear it.
Right, you just hear it wrong, or you didn't realize how it was actually supposed to be said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we could do a whole episode on that for my own faux pas over life. Yes, for sure. Any other things about overwhelm?
We're all there, and I think it's, again, just take a deep breath, process, make your list. It's a season, and this is a season to be celebrated. It doesn't feel like it at the time, but it means you've made it. Yeah,
and you won't revert back.
Right.
That's the other piece. Once you get through that initial push, you will then get to the other side, and then you'll have the tools and resources to build to the next.
Yeah. So I would love to hear y'all's stories too of how you overcame some of the pains of growing a business.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Right.
Here we are.
Jen.
Cheers. Thanks, Deb.
Yeah. Till next time.
Till next time, indeed.
Thanks for joining us. If you loved this episode and know of someone who would find value in it, please spread the word and share it with a friend. We are passionate about redefining success, and it would mean the world if you could help us get our mission out to as many people as possible. Please take a moment to write a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. You can also hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Connect with us on Instagram at Success Resequencing Project or via our website at www.successresequencing.com. We'd love to hear your story.